Adil sat in his office, staring at the tall glass windows that showed the busy city outside. He was a billionaire, a successful CEO of a large company. People respected him for his sharp mind and quick decisions, but his heart always felt empty. It had been 5 years since he lost his wife, and since then, his life was only about work and his 3 little children. The triplets Ali, Sarah, and Hina were 6 years old. They were his joy and his world. Every evening, when he returned from meetings and business dinners, the children would run to him, their laughter filling the big, silent house. They loved their father deeply, but they also felt that he was always busy with work. Adil often sat in his study late at night, looking at old photos of his family. He wished he could find someone who would love his children like their mother once did. But being a billionaire made it difficult. Many people he met only saw his money, his cars, his power. They wanted the life he could give, not the person he truly was. One rainy evening, after putting the children to bed, Adil scrolled through his phone. His friend had suggested something unusual, a blind date arranged through a simple matchmaking service. At first, Adil laughed at the idea. Why would a CEO like me go on a blind date, he thought. But then, an idea formed in his mind. What if, he whispered to himself, I meet someone not as a billionaire, but as a normal man? What if I hide my wealth and see who truly cares? The idea stayed with him for days. Finally, he made a decision. He would go on a blind date, but he would not reveal his true identity. No expensive suit, no luxury car, no bodyguards. He would dress simply and act like an ordinary office worker. The triplets were sitting on the living room floor when Adil walked in with a soft smile. Ali, Sarah, Hina, he said, kneeling beside them, how would you like to meet a new friend with me? Sarah tilted her head. A friend? Like a play friend? Maybe, Adil chuckled. She is someone kind, I hope. I want to see if you 3 like her too. Ali clapped his hands in excitement. Will she bring toys? Hina giggled. Or sweets? Adil laughed for the first time in days. We will see. That night, he looked into the mirror and saw a man tired of pretending to be strong all the time. He wanted someone to talk to, someone to share small moments with, not just big parties and business trips. The day of the blind date arrived. Adil chose a small cafe in a quiet corner of the city. He wore a simple gray shirt, dark jeans, and ordinary shoes. He drove his old car instead of his shiny luxury one. The triplets were dressed in simple clothes too, Ali in a blue t-shirt, Sarah in a yellow dress, and Hina in a pink one. As they entered the cafe, the warm smell of coffee and fresh bread filled the air. The children clung to his hands, looking around with wide eyes. Adil felt a strange nervousness he had not felt in years. He saw her sitting at a corner table, a young woman with calm eyes and a gentle smile. Her name was Marwish. She wore a modest green dress and had her hair tied neatly. She looked up as Adil approached, and her eyes softened when she saw the children. Hello, Adil said politely, I hope you don't mind. I brought some little company. Marwish smiled warmly. Of course not. Hello, everyone. Ali quickly said, I am Ali, while Sarah added, I am Sarah, and this is Hina. Hina hid behind Adil for a moment, then peeked out shyly. They all sat down, and for the first time in a long while, Adil felt a simple kind of peace. There were no cameras, no journalists, no fake smiles. Just a table, some warm tea, and a woman who seemed to care about the children more than anything else. As they ordered tea and a plate of biscuits, the conversation began. Marwish asked the children about their favorite games and listened carefully as they spoke. She looked at Adil and asked kindly, it must be hard to raise 3 children alone. Adil nodded slowly. It has its challenges, but they are my greatest happiness. There was no sign of surprise or greed in her eyes, only understanding. That touched his heart in a way he did not expect. The triplets giggled as Merwish told them a small story about her students. She worked as a school teacher, and her life was simple but full of care for children. Adil listened, his mind quiet for the first time in many months. When they left the cafe, the children held her hands as if they had known her for years. Adil drove home with a soft smile, thinking about how natural it had felt. That night, as the rain tapped gently against the windows again, he stood by the triplets' room and whispered, "Maybe this is the beginning of something real." The next morning, the triplets woke up early, their faces full of excitement. The cafe meeting with Merwish had left a warm memory in their little hearts. Ali kept asking questions while brushing his teeth. "Baba, will we see her again? She tells nice stories." Sarah was busy tying her shoelaces. "She helped me cut my biscuit. She is nice, Baba." Hina hugged her small toy and whispered, "She smiled at me. I like her." Adil listened quietly, his heart feeling lighter than usual. For years, he had avoided bringing anyone close to his children, afraid they might not accept them or might see them as a burden. But Merwish was different. She had talked to the triplets as if they were her own younger friends. Later that day, Adil sent a simple message through the blind date service, "It was nice meeting you. Would you like to join us for an evening at the park?" The reply came after a few hours, "Sure, I would like that. The children are sweet." By late afternoon, the sky had turned golden. Adil dressed in the same simple style, no expensive watch, no shiny shoes. The triplets wore their casual clothes and carried a small ball. They went to the neighborhood park where children laughed and played on swings. Merwish arrived with a small basket of homemade snacks. "I thought the children might like these," she said with a smile. Ali ran to her first. "You came. We brought a ball." Soon, they were sitting under a tree, sharing snacks and watching the triplets play. Merwish asked Adil, "You work in an office, right?" Adil nodded. "Yes, I do. It keeps me busy, but I try to give my children as much time as I can." Merwish looked at the children running on the grass. "They seem very attached to you. It's not easy to raise 3 children alone. You must have sacrificed a lot." Adil smiled faintly, hiding the deep pain in his heart. "They are my reason to wake up every morning. Work comes and goes, but they are my life." There was a moment of silence between them. The park was full of evening sounds, birds returning to their nests, children laughing, the soft rustle of leaves. It felt peaceful. After a while, Sarah came running and tugged at Merwish's hand. "Will you tell us another story? The one yesterday was funny." Merwish laughed softly. "All right, one more." She gathered the 3 children and began telling them a simple story about a little bird learning to fly. Adil sat a few steps away, watching how the triplets listened with bright eyes, how Hina leaned on Merwish's shoulder without hesitation. It stirred something deep in him, a feeling he thought he had locked away long ago. As the sun began to set, they all walked together towards the car. The triplets begged, "Baba, can she come again?" Merwish smiled politely. "Only if your Baba agrees." Adil nodded with a gentle laugh. "I think we can arrange that." Over the next 2 weeks, their meetings became frequent. Sometimes they met in the park, sometimes at a small bakery where the triplets loved the fresh bread. Merwish never asked about money or luxury. She talked about her school, her students, and her dream to open a small reading corner for children one day. Adil found himself looking forward to these meetings more than any boardroom deal or corporate dinner. With her, the world felt simpler. One evening, after the triplets had fallen asleep, Adil sat in his study again. He opened his diary and wrote, "It feels strange to hide who I am. But for once, I am not a CEO. I am just a father trying to find someone who will care for my children without knowing the life I have built." Is this wrong? Or is this the only way to find what's true? The next day, Merwish invited them to her school's weekend fair. It's nothing fancy, she said, just some games, books, and music for children. The triplets jumped with excitement. We want to go, said Ali. Will there be balloons? Asked Sarah. There will be, Merwish laughed. At the fair, Adil helped set up a small stall with her. They sold lemonade and small handmade bookmarks. The triplets ran around with painted faces, their laughter echoing through the open ground. Merwish watched them play and whispered to Adil, you know, they are really good children. They just need love and someone to listen to them. Adil looked at her, his eyes soft. Yes, and they have started liking you already. She smiled, a little shy but honest. I like them too. They remind me of the reason I became a teacher. As the evening ended, the fair lights dimmed, and the cool breeze wrapped around them, Adil realized something had already started to change. For the first time in years, he was not thinking about mergers, profits, or luxury. He was thinking about small things, a shared laugh, a cup of tea, a woman who held his children's hands with care. He drove home that night with the triplets asleep in the back seat, their cheeks still painted with stars. His heart was quiet but full of a new kind of hope. The mornings in Adil's house started to feel brighter. The triplets woke up with new excitement each day, asking when they would see Merwish again. It had been a few weeks since their first meeting, and slowly, a soft rhythm had formed in their lives. One Saturday, as Adil prepared breakfast, Ali peeked into the kitchen. Baba, can Merwish come for breakfast one day? Sarah joined in, holding a spoon in her hand. She makes nice snacks. I like her stories. Hina, still rubbing sleep from her eyes, added, she holds my hand when I feel shy. I like her. Adil smiled, flipping the bread on the pan. Let's see. We can invite her this weekend. But remember, she might be busy with her school. Later that day, Adil sent Merwish a simple message, the children miss you. Would you like to have breakfast with us this Sunday? Her reply was warm, I would love to. I'll bring some homemade jam for the little ones. Sunday arrived with a soft breeze. The triplets set the table with colorful cups and plates, their small hands eager to help. Adil watched them quietly, his heart full. When Merwish arrived, wearing a light blue dress and carrying a small jar of jam, the house seemed to glow a little more. The children ran to greet her, each holding one of her hands. They ate together, the room filled with soft laughter and the smell of warm bread. Merwish asked about their favorite games, their favorite colors, and even helped Sarah tie her hair neatly. Adil observed how naturally she blended into their morning. There was no awkwardness, no forced smiles. It felt like a missing piece quietly finding its place. After breakfast, they all went to the backyard. The children played with their toys while Merwish sat on a wooden bench. Adil joined her, holding 2 cups of tea. You seem to care for them a lot, Adil said softly. Merwish smiled, watching the triplets. They are easy to love. They have kind hearts. You've done well raising them. Adil looked down, a mix of gratitude and sadness in his eyes. I tried, but I always feel they deserve more. Someone who can guide them, someone who can make them feel safe. Merwish turned to him, her expression gentle. They already feel safe with you. That is clear. But yes, children also need someone who listens and shares small moments with them. Her words stayed with Adil long after that day. As weeks passed, their meetings continued. Sometimes they visited the library together, where Merwish helped the children choose picture books. Sometimes they went for evening walks, with the triplets skipping ahead, holding balloons or small paper kites. Adil started noticing small things about Merwish, how she always carried an extra handkerchief for the children, how she never complained even when she was tired, How she listened carefully to even the silliest things they said. One evening, while they were sitting at a quiet tea shop, Merwish shared a little about her life. "I grew up in a small town," she said, stirring her tea. "My parents were teachers. They taught me that life is not about what you own, but how you make people feel. I try to carry that with me." Adil listened closely, his hands wrapped around his cup. "That is rare these days. Many people chase things, but forget hearts." Merwish smiled faintly. "I don't have many things. Just a small house, a job I love, and a hope to make children feel cared for. That is enough for me." That night, when Adil drove the triplets home, they were unusually quiet. Finally, Ali spoke. "Baba, she is very kind. Do you like her?" Adil glanced in the rear-view mirror, a small smile tugging at his lips. "I do. But what matters is, do you like her?" Sarah giggled. "We do. She is like our teacher, but she laughs more." Hina whispered, "She makes the house happy." Adil said nothing more, but his heart felt heavy with both hope and fear. He was growing close to her, yet his secret stayed between them like a wall. She believed he was a simple office worker. She had no idea about the tall buildings he owned, the luxury cars hidden in his garage, the wealth that followed his name everywhere. As the days went on, that secret began to trouble him more. He wanted to tell her, but he feared it would change everything. One Friday evening, as the children slept and the house grew quiet, Adil sat by the window with a notebook. He wrote, "She is honest. She is kind. But what will she think when she finds out who I truly am? Will she feel betrayed? Or will she understand? I do not want to lose this chance." The city lights twinkled outside, but his thoughts were far away on a woman who had brought gentle smiles to his children and unexpected warmth to his own heart. The days passed gently, and the bond between Merwish, Adil, and the triplets grew stronger. Each meeting felt warmer than the last. The children started to wait by the window every evening, hoping to see her car. Even the house staff noticed how the once quiet home now carried soft laughter. One evening, after the children had gone to bed, Adil sat with his laptop in the living room. He was going through some emails when a message from the blind date service caught his eye. It was a simple update about Merwish's profile, something he had not paid much attention to before. Out of curiosity, he read a little more about her work and school. He discovered that her school was facing some financial trouble. Their small library had not received funding for months, and the staff often had to contribute from their own pockets to keep small activities alive for the students. The next day, while dropping the triplets off for a small weekend class Merwish organized, he overheard her talking to another teacher. "We will manage somehow," Merwish said softly. "The children love the reading corner. Maybe I will buy a few more books from my savings. They shouldn't miss out because of the budget." Adil stood silently near the door, pretending to tie Hina's shoe, but his mind was somewhere else. She spends her own money for the children, he thought. And she never mentioned it, not once. That evening, he drove home deep in thought. He wanted to help, but he couldn't do it openly, not yet. He had chosen this path of pretending to be an ordinary man. If he suddenly paid for the school's needs, she would suspect something. Later that night, after the children had fallen asleep, he made a quiet decision. He contacted one of his trusted assistants but used a simple email address, not his company's. He instructed them to arrange an anonymous donation for the school's library fund. A few days later, Merwish called him with a cheerful tone. "You won't believe it. Someone donated to the school. We can finally fix the shelves and buy more books. The children will be so happy." Adil smiled at the phone. "That is wonderful news," he replied, keeping his voice steady. "You deserve it. You work very hard." She sighed with relief. "Sometimes, I feel life is kind to those who keep trying. Thank you for always listening to me, Adil. Those words warmed his heart more than any award he had ever received. As their friendship deepened, Merwish started to notice certain small details about Adil. He never spoke much about his work. He was polite but careful with his words. His mannerisms were gentle but sometimes too refined for someone claiming to be a regular office worker. One evening, while they were walking in the park, she noticed a man in a suit greeting Adil from a distance with great respect. Adil gave only a small nod and quickly changed the topic. Sarah, who was walking ahead, turned around. Baba, why did that uncle call you sir? Adil smiled quickly. Maybe he mistook me for someone else. Merwish did not ask more, but her mind began to collect little pieces of a puzzle she could not yet solve. Meanwhile, the triplets grew closer to her each day. Hina started keeping a small drawing she made of Merwish in her school bag. Ali would often ask her to help him with his science homework. Sarah began sharing her small secrets with her, what she wanted to become when she grew up, how she wanted to write a book one day. One Sunday evening, as the sky turned orange and the park lights flickered on, Merwish sat beside Adil on the same wooden bench where they often talked. You know, she said softly, I have seen many parents drop their children at school and hurry away. But you stay. You listen. That matters more than any gift. Adil looked at her for a moment. I do what I can. They are all I have. She smiled. And you are all they have. The words stayed with him as they drove home. He knew the children needed stability, but what about his own heart? He was starting to feel something deeper for Merwish, something he had not felt in years. That night, after tucking the triplets into bed, he sat at his desk and stared at a blank page. He wanted to write down what he was feeling, but the words did not come easily. She is kind. She is brave. But I am hiding a part of myself. How long before she notices? Outside, the rain began to fall softly, the same way it had the night he first thought of meeting someone new. The city was quiet, but inside his home, the sound of the children's soft breathing filled the halls. Adil closed his notebook and whispered to himself, I must tell her one day. But not yet. Not until I know she truly cares for us, not for what we own. The weeks that followed were filled with quiet happiness for the triplets. Merwish became a part of their routine, like a warm morning sun that entered their home without knocking. She brought books, played games, and sometimes even stayed for dinner. But for Adil, the calmness came with a growing weight. The secret of his real identity had become like a shadow following him everywhere. He had hidden it well, yet small hints began to appear like cracks in a wall. One Friday evening, Adil was invited to a charity event. It was an event where his company was donating to help build a children's hospital. He planned to attend quickly and return before the triplets' bedtime. But as fate would have it, Merwish was also invited. Her school was one of the partners in the charity. Adil wore a formal suit that evening, stepping into the bright hall filled with lights and cameras. He did not expect to see Merwish there, but when he turned and found her standing near the entrance, holding a folder of her school's documents, his heart sank. She looked at him with surprise, almost disbelief. He was not wearing his simple shirt or his old car keys tonight. He stood among other business leaders, shaking hands with organizers who addressed him with titles like Sir Adil and CEO of the largest firm in the city. For a moment, she stood frozen, her mind trying to piece everything together. The man who claimed to be a simple office worker was here, in the middle of an event she only read about in newspapers. After the speeches ended and the hall started to empty, she quietly approached him. So, this is who you are. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed a storm of questions. Adil turned, guilt heavy in his chest. Merwish. I can explain. She held her folder tightly. You told me you worked in an office. You let me believe you lived an ordinary life. All this time, why? Before he could answer, the triplets, who were staying with a caretaker in a nearby room, came running toward them. "Baba! The balloons are so big here!" Ali shouted. Sarah looked at Merwish with innocent eyes. "You came too?" Merwish forced a small smile for the children, but her heart felt heavy. She could not be angry in front of them. "Yes, I came," she said softly, patting Hina's hair. Adil sensed her distance even as they left the hall. The ride home was quiet. The children fell asleep in the back seat, unaware of the change in the air. Later that night, when he dropped her at her small home, Merwish finally spoke. "I did not care about your money, Adil. But I did care about honesty. Why did you hide this from me?" He sighed, looking at the steering wheel. "Because every time I met someone, they saw the money first. Not me. I wanted to find someone who would care for the children, not for the name that follows me everywhere." Merwish stepped out slowly, her voice calm but distant. "Maybe I would have still cared for them. Maybe I would have still cared for you. But now, I don't know what was real." The door closed softly, but the sound felt loud in Adil's heart. The next few days were difficult. The triplets noticed her absence. "Baba, why is she not coming?" Hina asked one morning, holding her empty storybook. Adil knelt beside them. "She is busy with her school, little one. She will come when she can." But he knew it was not just the school. It was the wall of silence that had built between them because of his lie. At night, he sat by the window, looking at the rain again. It reminded him of the night he had decided to hide his identity. Back then, it felt like the safest choice. Now, it felt like a mistake that might cost him something priceless. "She deserved the truth from the beginning," he wrote in his diary. "I was afraid of losing a chance, and now I may lose her trust forever." Meanwhile, Merwish tried to focus on her school and her students, but her heart felt restless. The triplets' faces appeared in her mind when she tried to sleep. Their laughter echoed in her classroom when she stood near the blackboard. One evening, she received a small letter in her mailbox. It was written by 3 tiny hands. "Dear Teacher Merwish, we miss you. Baba looks sad. We don't know why you don't come. We want to hear your stories again. Please don't forget us." The letter was signed by Ali, Sarah, and Hina. Merwish held the letter close to her heart, her eyes softening. The children had nothing to do with the secret. They only knew kindness and care. She whispered to herself, "It's not their fault. It's not even just about him. It's about what is right for them." The following week felt heavy in Adil's house. The triplets still played, still laughed at times, but their smiles were shorter, their eyes searching for a familiar face. Every evening, when the doorbell rang, they rushed to the hall, only to return disappointed. "Baba, is Merwish angry with us?" Sarah asked one night while brushing her hair. Adil sat beside her, gently taking the comb from her hand. "No, Sarah. She is not angry with you. Sometimes grown-ups need time to think." Ali frowned. "But we did nothing wrong. We just wanted her to be our friend." Hina whispered, "I miss her stories." Their innocent words pierced Adil's heart. He knew this was his fault. He had tried to protect his truth, but in doing so, he had hurt the one person who made his children truly happy. That night, he wrote a letter himself but left it on his desk, unsure if he should send it. The words were simple: "I am sorry for not trusting you with the truth. My children miss you. I miss the peace you brought with you. Adil." Meanwhile, Merwish kept the triplets' letter folded inside her diary. She read it each night before sleeping. The words of the children pulled at her heartstrings. They were innocent. They had opened their little hearts to her, and now they were waiting without understanding why everything had changed. One afternoon, her colleague asked, "You have been quiet these days. Is something bothering you? Merwish smiled faintly. Not exactly. It's just that I miss some children, and maybe their father too. Her colleague chuckled softly. Sometimes, people make mistakes not to hurt us, but because they are afraid. If the children care for you, maybe you should not let one mistake erase all the good moments. That evening, Merwish sat by her window, watching the street lights flicker on. She remembered the park, the simple breakfasts, the laughter that filled her weekends. The memory was warm, not bitter. The next day, the triplets made their own plan. Without telling Adil, they took colorful paper from their room and began writing again. This time, they made 3 little notes, each one with a small drawing of a smiling face and balloons. Dear Teacher Merwish, please come back. We want to show you our new drawings. We want to play in the park again. Baba looks sad too. They left the notes on the kitchen table, hoping their father would see them. Adil found the notes later that night. He held them in his hands for a long time. The children's handwriting was uneven, their drawings simple, but their hearts were clear. He finally made a decision. The next weekend, he called Merwish. His voice was calm, almost hesitant. Merwish, I know I hurt your trust. But if you can, meet us at the park tomorrow. No expensive dinners, no big words. Just us, and the children. There was a pause on the line. Then her soft voice came, only for the children, Adil. The next day, the park was quiet, the morning sun painting the grass with gold. The triplets ran ahead with their small ball, their eyes scanning every corner. When they saw her, their faces lit up like lanterns. Merwish. You came. Ali shouted, running to hug her. Sarah held her hand tightly. We wrote you notes. Did you get them? Merwish nodded, kneeling to their level. I did. And I missed you too. Adil walked slowly toward them, his hands in his pockets. He looked at her, his eyes full of unspoken apologies. Thank you for coming. They sat on the bench again, just like old times. The triplets played nearby, their laughter floating in the air. Adil took a deep breath. I was wrong, he said quietly. I thought hiding my name would help me find something real. But I ended up building a wall between us. Merwish looked at him, her expression soft but firm. You wanted to protect your heart, I understand. But trust is also a gift. You could have given that to me. He nodded. You are right. I should have trusted you. For a while, they said nothing. The wind moved gently through the trees. The triplets returned, showing their new drawings to Merwish, who smiled and clapped for each one. Slowly, the distance began to fade. It was not completely gone, but the warmth of the children, their simple love, acted like a bridge between them. As the sun began to set, Adil looked at Merwish again. I don't ask you to forget what happened. I only ask for one more chance to make things right, not for me, but for them. Merwish glanced at the 3 small faces looking up at her with hope. She could not promise yet, but she also could not turn away. Let's see, Adil, she said softly. Let's see where this goes. That night, the house felt a little lighter. The triplets went to bed smiling for the first time in days. And Adil, standing by the window, whispered, maybe tomorrow can be better. The following morning, Adil woke up with a strange feeling of hope. The events of the previous day had lightened his heart. He had spent hours replaying the moment when Merwish had agreed to meet him and the triplets again. Though nothing had been fully resolved, the first step toward trust had been taken. The triplets, of course, were brimming with energy. Ali bounced into the kitchen with a wide grin. Baba. She is coming today, right? Sarah was already sitting at the table, carefully drawing a colorful picture. I made a special drawing for her. Do you think she will like it? Hina clutched her stuffed bunny. I want to give her a hug. Adil smiled softly. I'm sure she will like everything. But remember, we must be kind and patient. Sometimes people need time. By mid-morning, Merwish arrived at the house. She wore a simple pink dress and carried a small basket of fruits. The triplets ran to her, their laughter filling the air. She knelt down, letting Ali, Sarah, and Hina hug her tightly. It's good to see you all, she said warmly, brushing a strand of hair from Hina's face. The children led her to the garden, showing her the small flower patch they had been tending. Adil followed quietly, carrying 2 cups of tea. They sat on the garden bench. The sun shone softly, highlighting the colors of the flowers, the smiles of the children, and the calm in Merwish's eyes. Adil cleared his throat. Merwish. I want to say again, I am sorry for hiding the truth from you. I wanted to protect our moments together, but I realize now I only created distance. I hope, maybe we can start again. Merwish looked at him, her expression soft but thoughtful. Adil, it was not easy to see that side of you. But I also saw your honesty, your care for the children, and the way you acted even when I didn't know the truth. That matters to me. The triplets watched silently, sensing the change in the air. Ali tugged at Merwish's hand. Please stay. Don't leave us again. Sarah added, we made new drawings. Look. Hina held up her favorite stuffed bunny. And I made a bracelet for you. Merwish smiled, her heart melting at their simple gestures. She hugged each one carefully, feeling their tiny hands wrap around her. Finally, she looked at Adil. I don't want to stay because of your wealth. I want to stay because of the bond one have with you and the children. But trust must be rebuilt. Can you promise me honesty from now on? Adil took her hand gently. I promise. No more secrets. Only honesty and care. For a long moment, they sat quietly, watching the children play. The tension that had existed for weeks slowly dissolved. The triplets laughed as they chased butterflies, and Adil realized that the true happiness he had been searching for was not in wealth, offices, or deals, it was in these small, simple moments. Merwish stood and suggested a game with the children. Let's have a picnic right here, she said, spreading out a colorful blanket. She unpacked the fruits, biscuits, and juice she had brought. The triplets cheered, sitting down eagerly. Adil watched them, feeling a warmth that no amount of money could buy. He had learned an important lesson: love, care, and honesty were the true treasures of life. As the day passed, the bond between them strengthened. Merwish shared stories, taught the triplets small games, and laughed freely. The children, in turn, showed her their favorite corners of the garden, their little creations, and their silly jokes. When the sun began to set, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and pink, Adil and Merwish sat on the bench again. The triplets had fallen asleep after a long day of fun, their heads resting on each other, peaceful and content. Adil looked at Merwish and whispered, everything changed when you came into our lives. Not because of me, or what I have, but because of you. Merwish smiled softly. And everything changed for me too. I never thought I could feel this close to someone so quickly. Your children, they are the reason I stayed. Adil nodded, feeling the weight of past mistakes lift slowly from his heart. From now on, we will face everything together. No more hiding, no more walls. Just us, and the children. Merwish reached out, taking his hand in hers. Yes. Together. The evening grew quiet, and the house felt warmer than ever. The laughter, the stories, and the simple joy of being together filled every corner. Adil knew that life would still have its challenges, but he also knew that they could face them as a family honestly, openly, and with love. As the stars appeared in the night sky, Adil, Merwish, and the triplets sat together on the garden bench. The wind whispered softly, carrying the scent of flowers and the gentle peace of a family finally reunited in trust and happiness. And for the first time in years, Adil felt completely at home, not in his mansion, not in his wealth, but in the hearts of the children and the woman who had become a part of their lives. Everything had changed when she came. And this time, it was the kind of change that would last forever.